Hi, everyone. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the following podcast belong solely to the host and its contributors. They are not necessarily the views of our employers, organizations, committees, or other group or individual.
Well, hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Brewing with BIM. As always, I'm Joe Whitney. With me is Dave Campbell, and we've got another great guest with us again. A kind of repeat, Johann Tuckler. What's up, Johann?
How's it going, guys? David, Joey, thanks again for having me and inviting me and talking this BIM stuff
Love this BIM stuff.
and drinking some good beers and spirits.
There
In
you go.
spirits, man. So I don't know about you guys. I'm still sipping on some of this Oregon whiskey from the last episode. I've got this Rogue spirits. I don't know if you can see. I got to move it a certain way. It's not the dead guy, but it's still good. Washing it down with a little bit of Dr. Pepper just to change the color. But what about you guys? What are you drinking on?
Go ahead,
So
Johan.
I got two things. I got the Bullet Bourbon
Bullet Bourbon,
whiskey.
yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
I saw the gift pack for the holidays. I was like, I gotta get it. I gotta get the cups.
Hey, I got the cups too, dude. That's the exact reason why I got it. I was looking at it like, I'm gonna get the cups. Yeah.
So I'm drinking some eggnog.
Heck
It's the
yeah.
holidays, and I got some hazy IPA from Crux Fermentation Projects. It's some brewery out of Bend. Some,
All right.
the same story. Three guys starting a brewery. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a nice crispy IPA.
I like Crux Brewing, man. Today, I actually got some Basil Hayden's whiskey, so it's been one of my favorites lately. Man, I love the taste of this on ice. I realized I will never. I mean,
You
I
need to get
like
a
it.
sponsorship for Basil Hayden's, bud.
Dude, I do, right? Well, I realized that I really enjoy the kind of sweetness of this, like all the notes of this whiskey as a sipping. And if I turn it into an old fashioned, it's good, but it's not as good. I feel like I'm ruining it, right? I'll turn that like cheaper bottle or the man, if I could get the box of whiskey, right? You get the box of whiskey. I'm good for old fashions for like a couple weeks, man. That's where it's at for the old fashions. You can cover it up with the simple syrup and some cherry juice, man, some orange bitters. But besides my Basil Hayden, I got a Hop Valley Bubble Stash hazy IPA.
Nice.
Yeah. Heck yeah, I'm down with the hazy IPAs too, man. It's a little chilly outside, right? So it's like you want a little bit thicker of a beer, a little more bodied, and of course, I love the higher alcohol content that usually comes with an IPA.
Warms you up, man. Love it.
Yeah. Heck
Well, how was your before we dive in and talk about, BIM being more than models, which by the way, that hashtag is I've been trying to put it on everything. I love it. Ever since you tagged it, man, is that your personal hashtag? You came up with that one?
I gotta say, I haven't seen anybody else use it before me, so I
yeah.
gotta say,
Yes.
yeah, I
All
made
right,
it.
all right.
I
Made
love
it.
it, man. I love it. I try to use it on everything.
Yeah.
And we've been trying to do sim is more than models too.
Yeah.
Not quite the catch, but
Yeah.
pushing it, man. Our whole message lately has been, all right, we talk about BIM a lot, but let's talk more about connected construction, because when we talk about BIM, we're talking about people think about silos for vertical construction, but what about the ground that comes before it? What about the non-model oriented information? I mean, there's a lot that goes to it, and it all plays together, man. So this, whatever it is more than models. It's perfect, man. It's perfect.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
I love, the fact that we can get so many different points, different kind of viewpoints, I want to say, on BIM, on how these tools are used, right? Because as we all talk about, BIM is, well, you have BIM processes, right? You have different pieces of the BIM workflow that you can use as tools, right, to aid your workflow. And essentially, we love Johann coming on because, again, he brings that different point of view from the owner's kind of perspective, right? So we kind of try to switch it up. We're software developing, and we can talk about the BIM workflows there. We can talk about the owner's representation. Because, really, I think that's what we really need to do. That's what the point of this podcast is, right? We're trying to educate everybody, and we're trying to, of course, talk about the pain points from an owner's perspective that maybe a contractor or VDC manager who's listening does not really know, right? And maybe, hey, we understand that this owner's rep is talking on the podcast about what the pain points are, what they try to get, the deliverables that typically help them down the road. Yeah, man, it's going to help. I feel like everybody raise our industry up together.
Well, you and I can talk about, software all day long and workflows and getting people involved for the project, right? But we never talk about it from an owner's perspective. One, because we don't have the insight like this man right here. He's the expert. And then two, we talk about like facilities management, BIM for facilities management. There's a whole educating the owner that has to go into it, and there has to be upfront, setting the standards with the owner to make sure that everybody gets that information. We can talk about it in construction in the field, but Johann, man, you're the man when it comes to this stuff. We love having you on. You're the expert, and when we think about BIM from an owner's perspective, BIM for FM, and just overall BIM being more than models. Hashtag. Love chatting with you, man.
Yeah, no, again, honored, appreciate it because yeah, I mean, like you said, it is just a perspective that is kind of thought about last, right? And I mentioned this in a comment or post in LinkedIn is, I come from the old school BIM where it's like Penn State, PSU, BIM reference material where they're saying, start with the end in mind, right? And if we're looking at these individual phases, are we actually thinking about the end in mind? Are we actually thinking about whether or not we're providing documents? Are we providing data? Are we providing a building, a system? What are we providing? And most of the time, what our contract describes what our responsibility is doesn't necessarily benefit the owner's needs and requirements for what they need. And sometimes, like you said, it's about educating them. And a lot of the discussions that we're going to have today kind of we're talking about facility management organizations, organizations that have a portfolio of assets that they need to track and analyze. With the smaller project, with the smaller clients, it's a little different. There's more of that education and learning curve. But yeah, these discussions or this podcast or episode is more about those larger facility owners that have a huge asset, um, responsibility.
So you said something there that I actually just got a new insight into recently working with some customers. So Penn State's project, right? Their BIM standards that they've had, their execution plan. They're the holy grail, right? They're the starting point that all of us start from on a project because they were there, right? Somebody wrote them, we adopted them. I'm now working with a few of the firms that worked with Penn State on the project where they helped set this up. And I'm finding that they still haven't adopted BIM. That was more about framework and buying specific software, but the workflows and the sharing of data and the processes to ensuring that the common data environment's there and everybody's working from the same model and the information is being pumped back into the model, all that sort of stuff. It was never there for these projects, and they're only just now getting there. So even the the OG, right? You're the OG, but talk about the OG, right? Penn State, like it sounds
Yeah.
like they're just now getting to a point where this is more common. But that said, you work on much larger projects. The project you're working on now, or I don't know if you're still working on it.
Still working on it.
Oh
Yep.
man, going to be going on for a while, I imagine, right?
Yep. There's definitely a lot of work to do. Yeah, with my client here, one of the airports here in Oregon. So yeah, definitely a lot of work. Information management, asset management. I mean, again, if with large asset portfolios, that is what the owner is really interested in. I mean, a building, a drawing, yeah, they're gonna get it, but that's not what they need to operate and maintain that facility system or asset.
Yeah. So being in the Pacific Northwest, we had a multitude of Fortune 100 companies and stuff that are headquartered there. And we worked with like space planning departments and all that sort of stuff. So further downstream, a building's built and they want to utilize BIM, but they're still working off of 2D sets, 2D information. Nobody has built it. It's full of inaccuracies. It never tied in an FM system. So even the largest clients, right? There's still like a shortness of connecting, BIM to the owner. So I think the perspective that you've taken with this project, and the owner that you work with now on this project, they're doing everything they can to educate themselves in BIM. They're a great client, like working with them. So their whole process in this, I imagine it's been evolving. Are you working a lot with the asset teams, the information teams, the FM team? Sorry, I can't even speak.
Absolutely. That is, again, that is what I came here to kind of talk about today. When we're talking about BIM for owners, what the owner need is not drawings, is not specs. We've been working from that traditional way for a long time, and what we're finding out is that is unstructured data. Somebody still needs to go in there and read the document and extract the information, and make sure that it's there. Two, make sure that it's in the right format. And then you're like, oh, it's not in the right format. So then they have to redo the spec or redo the nomenclature in the drawings because it doesn't meet what is already in an already existing database or portfolio. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No.
I was gonna say, dude, I'm gonna jump in on this because I'm writing a paper with a lot of this. I talk about a lot of this in that article right now, and it kind of goes back to Joey's point of connected construction, right? And what I want to see is this overall integrated database model, right? And in this model, they can get into it like an owner, let's say the owner's perspective, get into it to select their different equipment and pull manufacturer's information, warranty information, and be able to tie it back to almost like the QR code system, right? But also in a sense of tracking and when assets and let's say phases or the building, whatever it is, updates, we need to track that. Right. And I mean, so let's get bigger than the building, because as again, connected construction and construction in general, you have to think bigger than just the building. It's the site, the entire site, everything that's on it. You need to know about the pipes, the connections, like your equipment, and owners need to understand and kind of control all of that. So especially let's say if they're going into, like we talked about phases, phase 2, if you're going to start upgrading your facilities, we have to go with this new pump because it's going to go ahead and upgrade what we can push for gallons per minute in terms of water or whatever it is. We need a database that's not only going to track that the pump is there, but also it's going to be able to analyze and tell us, like we can run tests, right? Kind of simulations on it to be able to understand what they can and cannot do to help the owner make the best decision possible. I really think that once we can get this integrated database of information, it's going to make everything easier, of course, for everybody involved, right? I mean, we talked about as-builting, right? And that's a huge thing that I kind of feel like falls to the wayside after a building is delivered, right? That's just it. That the building's done, they're the drawings, they go to die, it's fine. And yeah, you wash your hands of it and that's gone. And then next thing you know, man, they're trying to get back into it. And this place has like 3 additions in the past few years. And you're like, well, that's not there. Well, that's not there. Who did this? And it just makes things harder for anybody else down the line. It really does.
So cities have systems so real quick, the system that you mentioned about BIM and QR coding, have you seen BIM 360 Ops yet?
No, I haven't seen the new one.
You have, Johann?
I've seen previews. There's still a lot of work to be done, but yes, it looks promising.
It's not a full, in my mind, it's not a full FM system, but it is a work ticket management system that allows you to take the asset information and the BIM data and give it to an owner in an easy to consume format, in my mind, right? That's the simplest, that's where we're at. It's not an FM system, it's not gonna replace that, but it gives owners access into a BIM model without having, designers on hand, or having to have a Revit background, or what have you. Second off, the point that you were making about data and analyzing, that's where we need to be, man. We do have some of these components already. Like, so for instance, City of Portland, which Johann, I'm sure you've worked with and are aware, but they've got systems in place. There's a GIS system, and they have an asset management system. Their asset management system tracks everything. We've got all the pipes in the ground. We've got everything. It's not 100% right, and that's the issue with most things, is they're not 100%, but it's pretty good, right? They've got this full, like, insane database of all this information that they can pull information from. Contractors can request information from, and then there's the GIS database, and we can aggregate the two. What we're missing is BIM level data making its way into that system, and we've only really just become to a point where we're actually able to cross back and forth. And I'm not saying it's 100% either, but there's got to be a platform, a system, something that's going to marry all these two together. And Johann, have you had any luck, or played with anything that's kind of piqued your interest in this?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I fortunately, my role in a lot of the projects is guidance, right? So the responsibility and execution lies in other parties. So I luckily learn a lot from other people's mistakes.
It's a good benefit, man. You
Yeah,
always
heck
get
yeah, it
hindsight.
is.
It
Right?
is. And what I'm realizing is that again, what we need to focus on is information management, right? What the owner needs to realize is that the project isn't just producing drawing specs in a building, it's producing data that is going to be, like you said, at the end of the project, they're just going to say, here you go. We're done.
Yep.
Please send
Well,
the final
do,
check,
do,
right?
so part of that issue, though, has got to be data standards, like structuring the data, because you said unstructured data is always an issue. It is. We can sort through it, but aggregating it, working with it, if anybody that's ever done anything with a database knows that unstructured data, it's not predictable. And we need predictable data, right? We need three-dimensional data that we can, not three-dimensional in geometry, but three-dimensional as, think of a cube of data that we can push and pull in any way that we want. Whether you have set standards, whether it's done through an SQL, it's Access, whatever. There's data points, and they're all intermingled some way. Like, that's good enough for us to pull from. But then you still have to go through and you have to map fields to your system and other people's systems. So, like, it seems like Kobe was a big standard for a while that people were pushing to export data, and it was primarily just so that they would have every field imaginable, but nobody really knew how to interact with it or use it, except for maybe 1% of all Revit users, what less than 1% of all users, right? So have you seen things change, or is it still Kobe, or is there something else that could be coming up?
So interestingly enough, I had this question at one of my coworkers kind of messaged me on Teams real quick. He said, "Hey, you know, Kobe or Uniformat?" And I said, I kind of thought about it, and again, it begins with the end in mind, right? These are two different classification formats for two different purposes, right? Kobe is going to classify elements based on materials so that a contractor can quickly give you a cost estimation per the material, right?
Yeah,
And
BOM.
that
Yeah.
exactly, and that aligns with the spec. Okay, Uniformat allows you to define services elements in the built environment uh, by service. You've got different levels that you can classify building elements and building services, and really what is driving this implementation is asset management managers and programs. Currently, right now, a lot of asset managers are going to use Maximo. And if you're going to use Maximo, best practices is, at least that I've seen in airports, is that you're going to use Uniformat too. and there's always that alignment with master format. So again, it's really determined on what is the information needed for. Um, so yeah,
Yeah. What's your end goal? Yeah, and
exactly.
that's really what I think a lot of this also needs to be. I mean, that kind of encompasses the entire. I want to think process. Like you should start from the beginning with the end goal in mind, right? But in the same sense, like let's break this down a little bit further. Joey, you and I were talking about this the other day. I've been geeking out into smart cities lately, and I keep going deeper and deeper with it. I love the connectivity of it, but I also hate that it's still, even though it's, smart cities, it's still siloed, it's still disconnected.
It's very
you know
dumb.
it is, it's
Sorry.
very dumb.
It's a smart
Well,
city, but it's very dumb. Yes.
yeah, it is, but I love the kind of, you know I don't know. I was thinking of how I love the kind of interconnectivity of everything, and how um I don't know, I guess we're looking to, I guess looking how to, I guess, push this data, that because that's really the biggest thing, and figuring out how to get, um, again, this kind of one model that, I don't know, is going to allow us to do more than just, okay, this is where our building's going to sit, this is what we're going to do. But like what Joey and I were talking about was the demographic information, the psychographic information, like positioning.
Utilities,
Yes,
like
utilities,
knowing
everything.
the extent of the existing infrastructure without having,
Yes.
like, what is the like, have an automated like generative design process that can go in there and say, all right, Chili's, where do you want to put your next restaurant? Well, my next restaurant needs to conform to these standards. I need to have seating for 150 people. I need to have a parking lot that fits this. And I'm, really trying to, not do as much site work, reduce my site work as much as possible, as far as tapping into in existing
Yeah.
infrastructure and roadways and all that stuff, like what we're responsible for. So
And
it's
it's
like,
almost like setting up a house search, right?
yeah,
You're putting in those parameters, those filters, and you can start helping the owner once they can figure out what that end goal is, right? You can start helping to educate them and help them make these better decisions, because one, two, I mean, I've seen it, I don't even know how many times buildings start up and there's so much excitement, it's great, and then after a while it tanks, and then there's a new owner, and then a new owner, and then a new owner, and you're like,
just
what is
cost after
going on with
cost.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
They're finding that
it's
the vault actually was in the street, or
yeah,
over a property line, and who's
yeah,
responsible
dude.
for
It's
that?
just,
Oh, you are. It's just,
yeah,
it
and then
adds
the
up, man.
misuse of it. You try to put so many different buildings here because you think it's going to be a great idea, but in all reality, if you to put it, over here in this lot or over here in this lot, it would have fit you better. You could have gotten more of your kind of traffic, whatever you're trying to aim for. I mean, it's just, there's so much information that I feel is out there in terms of, just as I'm saying, demographic, psychographic, everything that we could really start to pull into, designing and placing these buildings and the sites, as you're saying, knowing your existing connections. What does the city have currently that we can hook up to, and how can we, how are we going to be able to optimize this? I
Well,
worked at
we
a,
we
oh,
have
sorry.
that data though. We have that data. It's not just getting the generative design component in place and then tapping that with psychographics. So if you've ever used, I always talk about GIS with you, man. If you use GIS, there's a
Yep.
psychographics component through mosaics that'll tap in all this stuff, and you can, pull all that data. So that's just one component of it. And that's just site based. So say we
Yep.
have this site, we want to analyze it. Well, now let's do the generative design component and figure out, hey, can we get, the amount of square feet that we need with the size parking lot
Where
and
can we
not
best
have.
position this building to where we can grow with this, and we have optimal,
Exactly.
we're not going to encroach on anybody's property lines. If I get this big and I have to put a retention pond in, where can I place that? It's the end, like you said. If you want to grow to be this big, you got to plan
But
on being that big.
But the reason why I mentioned that path is so we have a lot of those tools, but Autodesk's new acquisition with the generative design component for sites, I think this might actually be a piece that we can utilize in the future. I mean, there's going to take some scripting and stuff to get it involved. And I know there's a UK company already doing this, and they're ahead of the curve with most people. But it seems like, to give everybody the power, the tools are starting to line up, man. Maybe 5 years, we'll see what happens. But I want it today. Damn it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one my only gripe, with digital twin and
Mm-hmm.
smart cities is really that, you know, it, to me, it just feels like a rebranding of a process that is already being overlooked, which is asset management.
Yep.
Okay. And when you boil down asset management, what it really all is information management, right? You got to
Yep.
define how you're going to classify the thing that you're going to look for later on when it breaks, right?
So do you
and how
see asset management as the component, a major component of it obviously is having a digital twin, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
of the site, of the specific information or assets that you're wanting to have in their correct location. So theoretically you have a digital twin. You're just saying that it's like that digital twin nomenclature is actually part of the asset management side.
exactly? It's just another portal, if you will, to access the data that, like you said, is already available.
Mm-hmm.
We've traditionally, since CAD has been around, have been making, even hand drawings. Since drawings have been around, we've been so focused on drawings, right? And again, what we're realizing is that within those drawings, there is unstructured data, which give me a table so I don't have to read a bunch of stuff, or give me a file format that will let me access these attributes behind the scenes in a different way. And again, let's keep the end in mind, um, because we need to understand what the format is, right? So that when we present it to our stakeholders, it's in a format and nomenclature that they understand, right?
Yep.
um, yeah.
That's an important component to think of. When people think about or talk about digital twins, for the most part, they're like, oh, scanners or a 360 photo of something. So we know where everything is. We've captured it. Therefore, it is a digital twin. But you haven't captured any information that goes in it. Now you have to bring it into another software, Matterport or whatever, and actually plug in the information. But really, all you did is you just captured the site, but
Record
you
model.
left off all the yeah. But there's
So
no
exactly, it's like, okay, so what I'm kind of realizing is that one major step, and the first step in the BIM execution planning process is not being done, at least in in unsuccessful projects, okay? And that is define your owner's goals, right? And because their owner goal isn't for you to make drawings, isn't for you to make specs, and isn't for you to make a like building. Like that's why that's obvious. They hired you to do that already,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that's not what they need to actually keep to maximize the use of this thing, right? And that's the first thing that we need to educate them, if they don't know already, is hey, we're going to come at this design at a perspective of we need to maximize how this service, this system, this asset for you, so that you can maintain it after we're gone. That is the true intent of the design. It's not, let's make sure it doesn't hit anything. The true intent of the design is make sure that it works and it lasts for as long as we say it lasts, right?
Yep. Yep.
exactly.
So let's capture that information in a matter that can be translated and visualized in different ways, because that same information is needed for different users and stakeholders. It's the same information. It's just visualized in different ways.
Dave, you and I chat about this often. The BIM that we see is BIM for coordination. Like, that's should be 1% of your BIM processes. Maybe
Yeah,
higher than
in
1%, but it's
design,
like
yeah, in design, you're going to have design authoring. You're making drawings, and maybe clash detection, maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, clash detection.
Yeah.
And then
Maybe.
you run into that situation where, okay, it's easy to clash architectural and structural, super easy. But when you get into services, you want to talk about uh, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and piping.
Oh yeah.
That
Every
is
outlet that
never
touches the wall, every pipe that goes through the wall.
exactly.
It's,
People
So
not
then,
monitoring
gosh.
so then
the.
that question, the owner's looking at, an execution plan or kind of Googling and looking at, oh, and then realizing there's LOD and they're like going to a meeting like, hey, what happened to the LOD? And then in design phase, they say, well, our responsibility is design intent. We don't
Hmm.
really know what they're going to put out in the field
I don't
because
know
we
how to
haven't
build
really
this.
because we haven't really captured the existing condition. And by the way, if you want us to do that, it's going to be a little bit more
Yep.
because that wasn't written into our contract in the beginning, because we don't, the owners that have these big assets portfolios um, need to begin to start assessing what they have and then providing that to the design teams. Otherwise, you know, they're going to pay for it. They're going to pay for
Yep.
it either way.
Yep.
So it's that, I think that kind of working with Mott McDonald, we think about a lot about maximizing how we win projects, right? It's not just, we're going to give you a design or we're going to manage the construction of it. That's not really what we want to do. We're doing that already. That's given, right? We want to make sure that the product that we give you is maximized for the needs that you see and the needs that we see as professionals around the industry, because that's really why they're hiring us. They're hiring us because we have the ability to see in different clients and see in different requirements. So they hire us to give them the perspective of looking into their current workflows and saying, hey, other places do it like this, other airports do it like this, other transportation authorities do it like this. So that's kind of you know really key, I guess. Shout out to Mom McDonald working with a group like that, because we have so much, and we have a broad range of expertise that we can bring in, ad hoc kind of, and provide that expertise to the client. So but yeah, like you said, it's about educating too. The client, we have to kind of coax the client to understand what it is they need, right?
Yep. Yep. I feel like we really need to help them understand what they need. But I think also another portion of that that goes kind of it's underrated or it's underlooked at, I guess, is visualization, right? I think that's another part of this that's a huge piece of, like, that's a piece of course, the BIM workflows, the SIM workflows, whatever it is, like to be able to visualize, well, let's say one, your space, the existing conditions, right? To be able to make better decisions, visualize the existing conditions, the existing systems, everything like that, right? But also the data, we need to let them visualize the data, help them to understand what they're looking at. Like, hey, we've done this with this project and this project. I know you're new at this, but this is what I'm going to tell you. This is the data that we've collected from these three projects with, MEP firms, whatever it is, and we think that we can help you make the best decision by doing this. And if we do this, then we start running through different scenarios. We can actually help them to visualize that. This is what your building can look like. This is what, this is the layout of this. And it really, I feel like that goes a long way for not only educating, but also really helping them get that buy-in to the entire process as well, right? Because I mean,
Absolutely.
if you're just throwing data at them, you're selling them on data. You know what I mean? Anybody can sell somebody on data. Yeah, I'm going to give you so much data, you're not going to know what to do with half of it. But like, what am I going to do with the rest of this? How does that help me? If you can show them, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to take this scan, we're going to do this, whatever it is, and it's going to help you like this, right? This is the information that it gives us, and this is how we can use it. Once you help them visualize that process and help them understand the benefits of it, then you can push forward with that because you've educated them, right? And they're armed with that and they're ready to go. And otherwise, you're going to get apprehension every time. Like, well, that's new. I didn't do that on my last building, or my buddy owns a building over here and they didn't do that. Like, okay, that's cool.
And really, if we ever really want to get to, smart cities and digital twins for, public services, we have to approach that to the people who are maintaining and operating these systems. That's what we have to include. It's not just, yeah, we can build you this. It's not that, yeah, we can, manage the construction. It's that, no, we can provide you way more than that. We can help you maximize this asset.
Mhm.
That's what we want to bring in.
Yep.
And honestly, a lot of the firms that are taking that point of view of maximizing in general, maximizing, but maximizing that asset to the client, they're the ones really, continually getting that work, because it is an easier asset to track, to analyze, and to maintain. Because the one thing that the biggest waste of time in a lot of the phases of this, the life cycle of this asset, is just research, right? You're just, if it's unstructured, you're just literally looking through drawings, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, there it is. And you're like, oh, that's not that.
Yep. Yep. Dude,
And
when
then
you
you
when
go to the spec and you're like, is this the right one? So you're spending, a week just trying to understand what is built versus what is documented, when, if we again, emphasize the need for information management, and asset management, and how that really plays a big role for the owner in BIM, then that's how we can maximize the end result and the goal.
Yep, yep.
So
I really want to see less handoff. That's really what I want to see, is less handoff from contractors and project partners, and more of a understanding of like a long-term relationship, right? You're getting into this relationship where I've built this building for you. All right. And we're going to come out every so often. We're going to check on it. We can take a scan, or we can take images. Let's update. Let's make sure that the drawings are updated, that the equipment's updated. If there are any changes, let's go ahead and update this for you. And that's all put up front, so that as
well,
that building
that's a
grows.
services contract that follows, man. You're
Oh
trying
man,
to
you
marry them,
said
and
the
not
bad
just
word. You said the bad word, Joey. Contract.
you're trying to marry them,
Damn.
man. They're trying to give you a one night stand and
But
move
Yeah,
on,
man.
dude.
We
What the
want that
but
hell?
you're
long-term
right. You're right.
relationship
I
with
mean,
this.
any effort in improvement, in um, pushing forward the envelope of how we deliver this project, is always going to be stopped by contractual responsibility. So honestly, I think that if we really want to get to that digital twin, if we really want to get to smart cities, we really need to, have a better look at what a coordinated design means for a
Oh,
Yeah,
contract.
there we go. Coordinated design. And
yeah.
earlier I said coordination counts for 1%. What I meant is it counts for one item, not 1%. That was the dumbest thing I could have said. I meant one item.
Don't quote
That
Joey
said,
on
don't
statistics.
quote Joe. Don't quote Joey on anything, guys. So I had the privilege of working with a company that does this for Microsoft, where they're kind of the third party, not necessarily an owner's rep or anything like that, and they're not a contract manager, but they're involved, and they fulfill a lot of the same responsibilities, but without a lot of the push and pull. But what they can do is they can request information in a certain way, so that no matter what, Microsoft always has the data structured in a way for their project. So they're doing like this seven. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know about the Microsoft Village project. It's like seven different sites. There's a whole bunch of site work. There's underground parking structure. It's insane. It's a great project.
I thought that's where you were at right now.
Yeah, well, yeah. Man.
That is
I'm
Microsoft.
actually in the
That's
Bungie
that's
office or the Microsoft
that's a
Halo
good one there.
office.
Like that.
Ah, man. Gotta whisper this between you guys and me. I got my kids an Xbox for Christmas. It's also I can start playing the new Halo. God damn it!
Dude,
I am
dude,
I am
that's such a
so
good
excited.
idea. That's such a good idea. I'm gonna use that. I want an Xbox too, and so does Dave. That's it. That's
So
his big present, man.
my wife she wanted to play Crash Bandicoot. So I was like, oh yeah, we'll go to game systems, play Bandicoot. I'm like, oh, okay, Xbox plays it. So
I thought that was PlayStation only was Crash Bandicoot.
no, man, it's on Xbox now. So got
Nice.
that, and got the Xbox and Game Pass, all that stuff. So I'm so
Yeah.
excited. Come on, man! Christmas can't come soon enough.
That's
I'm
awesome.
gonna play the shit
So
out
did you get the Xbox One?
No, man. The 360.
Oh, okay.
No, wait,
Okay.
which one's the one? Is the Yeah, no, I got the one. I got the
Okay,
one.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I was like, all right, man, if you got
360
the
is like
that's
10 years ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's like the PlayStation 3, that's like the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 kind of era. We're
No,
in the
no.
4 and 5 now, Joey. Where are you? No.
Yeah.
I got the one instead of the X or whatever the new one is, the X
Yeah.
series. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
only because the X series is impossible to find.
Oh yeah, no, not doing it.
Yeah.
And people who are selling them are like, oh, I'll take like $1,000 for this. Like, yeah, I'll wait till they restock
It's
shelves.
like
That's
I'll
okay.
buy a $1,500 laptop, gaming laptop,
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
At that point, yeah,
or just a desktop, you know.
yeah, yep, yep, yep.
While you're talking about laptops and desktops, man, I got to tell you, I'm entranced with your background back
I
there,
I'm
dude.
know.
loving it, dude.
That's great.
It,
What is
it's
it?
just
What's it from?
it's just a YouTube video,
Oh,
All right,
you know,
man.
you know what though? Really,
video backgrounds,
in all
yo.
reality, that's it's funny, but I was looking at that earlier, and we're talking about smart cities, and I keep thinking about something like that being a smart city, like the database that you can go pull information from. You know what I mean? It has all the buildings, the transportation systems, all the underground piping networks, and everything. I want to see that, man.
The issue with smart cities though is it's a scary concept. You think about giving people all that data, access to all that data, it has to be behind some kind of firewall. It has to be
It does.
behind some kind
It,
of encrypted protection, right? Like you wouldn't think
it's
that.
Eventually,
access,
though,
right?
it's all going
You
into the
know,
Yeah.
cloud.
well, all right. It's like BIM 360. You have to manage the access
Yep.
right?
Yep.
You
Yeah.
know, if you want to look at it, okay, great. Here's the model. But if you want to, interact with it and
Get
access
property
more than
information.
that, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's I think, it's kind of like how we publish GIS specific GIS maps that have specific data. That's really,
Yeah.
how
We,
to
we don't give them all the
manage that.
layers. Yeah.
No. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
You
If you
can
want to
have
see more
parcels
data,
and
yeah, if you
roads.
want to see
That's
more
it.
data, send a request.
Yep.
Yeah.
You
That's
know?
it, man.
Freedom
And
of
I
Information
know
Act.
everybody is scared, everybody's scared of technology to a sense. Like we all grow up with that, what was that movie, Smart House or something
Die
like
hard.
that?
Oh, no, sorry. Go ahead.
Die Hard. Yeah,
Smart
that's what it
They
house.
was.
have the
Like Smart
schematics to the building, man.
House,
You
it's like
went
the
rated
same
R and
thing.
he went G.
Right, right. And I was like, dude, like Smart House, like it was crazy. They locked them all in and everything like that. The house takes control, and that's what you look at that. You look at Terminator with Skynet, and you're like, man, if we send everything up to the cloud, what happens when the cloud gets smarter than us? It has all of our data, right? But I think that's just a fear of pushing into the future, right? I think that's kind of one of those blocks.
Did
And
you
what?
did you guys ever watch that show? Shit, now I'm blanking on it. But it was the guy that played Jesus Christ and Passion of the Christ, John Caviezel, Jim Caviezel, whatever. And he like was like there was AI talking to him, and it would tell him to go and like save people's lives. Do you guys remember this show?
No,
No.
nope.
It's an amazing show. But to your point, Dave, it's like one AI came in existence, then another AI came in existence in the show, and then they were battling it out and killing people because and people didn't know what was going on. Like they didn't know that AI in the background was manipulating our everyday lives. I think that that's probably more realistic. Is that AI in the cloud? It's not going to be like some mass event where we're going to be able to point our fingers at it. They're going to be smart enough to know. No. Let's let these humans point their fingers at themselves or something, man.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
I'm
That's
going to
Yeah,
look up the show.
and again, going back to, structured versus unstructured data. Okay. I'm going to wrap in AI with digital twins and smart cities. We can't have that if we don't have structured data.
Yes.
Exactly. Person of
Okay.
interest.
We just can't. I mean, the algorithm still needs a data set to check against and rules to check against. I mean, we're not at a point in AI, and I'm not an AI expert by any means, but as far as I've seen, we're not at a point where AI is really making decisions and actually asking the question for it to then answer.
No,
We're
it's
not
mostly
there yet.
predictive analytics. That's all it
Exactly.
is. Yeah, we're
Exactly.
like
So
pattern
you know,
recognition.
it's really, I don't know what it is, who's determining the marketing angle in the industry, but these acronyms, right? BIM, SIM, digital twin, smart cities, it boils down to keep having the end in mind of what the owner needs, right? And they need data. And how are we going to present that data in a format that they can access it in various platforms?
Yes. How does it translate? That's huge.
Right.
Like, how does it
So
communicate and translate between other platforms? Yeah.
yeah, and so that's why BIM is more than models, because especially for owners, BIM, BIM is not building information and modeling. That's far from it. That's already in the contract that the designer and the contractor is already obligated to do.
Mm-hmm.
There for the owner is information management,
Management.
There you go.
that
That,
unstructured data that is being delivered at the end of the project, that is in drawings, that is in specs, that is needed and necessary to operate this facility.
100%. So I think we're closer. This is 2020 and it's been the year of hell, but I think we are closer in 2020 than we were, say, 3 years ago, even
Yeah.
to having this. The programs that you mentioned earlier with Maximo and being able to take Revit data and structuring this data, like there's been a like people are more knowledgeable. They know what questions to ask. Owners seem more educated for whatever reason.
Well, we're all using models, and
That,
and the owner wants to maximize the use of the models.
Yep.
there you go, 100%. To David, you had this. I don't. We talked about this. I don't know, maybe like 20 episodes ago. It's hard to imagine 20 episodes ago, but like
Yeah.
a while back, we were talking about BIM for deconstruction, for demolition, essentially.
Yep.
So like, think about that. Like, that's got to be another whole. We talk about BIM for the owner's perspective. Like the owner, maybe it's a different owner at that point, but the owner is going to demolish this building. What can be saved? What can be utilized for the next phase? So they want to tear down this half and rebuild, but use this, section over here. Like all this information comes into play. So I don't know, like we almost have to think. It seems like even beyond the asset management information, like just to think. I don't know, man. I don't want to overwhelm them with data, but it all has to be there.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
Well,
dude, you think of any like life cycle chart, right? When you think about construction in general and you think about a building life cycle as a chart, you see where it begins as the drawings, everything like that, where it goes through its different phases of life, right, until it reaches demolition, right? But at that point in time, that's only the building. That's not the site, right? The entire site is living. It changes, it grows based on what changes are made, what codes are enforced throughout the years. Everything changes and it has to update, dude. If you want to really empower these owners when they're making these purchases, you have to give them that accurate data up front to say, okay, here is this is what it has currently, this is how it can go.
But is that accurate geometry or is that accurate information to go along with the geometry? Like
I want both, bro. I want the
depending on the
geometry
phase.
and I
want
want
it
the
all!
data. I want it all. Let's go.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
man.
you're right. It depends on the phase. It
Hmm?
depends on the phase, right? In the early planning stages, you only need you need more information to define your scope. Later on in the design or in the phases of the project, you start filling in the blanks, right? So, this structured data that we're talking about, it's not built overnight. It's not built in one day.
No.
And it's not the responsibility of one person,
Mm-mm.
right? And that's another thing that our industry should be educating owners about is, this information is developed and by all of us
Mhm.
for the purpose of you using it, right?
How does that work out contractually, though? So contractually, you say,
You said it again.
well, hey, look, man, unless
You're right, though.
contracts dictate the way that we collaborate, it dictates the way that we not only the way that we work, but also the scope of the work. Who's providing what information to whom. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's in the contract, but that doesn't specifically say that I did, and I didn't bid on that component. So therefore, I'm not providing that information. I mean, we have to come to a point. we talk about IPD and all these more integrated project types that are theoretically get us away from who does what, but more importantly about this is what we need and you guys got to figure it out.
Yeah,
Where does it work?
Okay, so one of the suggestions that I'm pushing for um, asset portfolio managers and organizations that have a big asset load is that they need to take a bigger responsibility in number one, defining the requirements of that information, and number two, defining the requirements of collaboration, right? And one possible solution is being the host of the common data environment, because I'm finding that we are still siloing each other in these different hubs of information, whether that's BIM 360, you got Bluebeam, you got Procore, you got so and so and SharePoint and this and that. And then in the end, you're spending more time managing those hubs and downloading and uploading stuff than actually tracking the issues that can provide a better asset for the client, right? And provide the information to the stakeholders that can then help you, make those decisions to maximize the use of this asset. So my what I would like to see is asset owners take a bigger role in hosting these hubs and determining how this collaboration is done, so that then they can say this is how we expect collaboration to be done, independent of who is picked. This is the process because we need this information, and we're not going to pay for it, pay multiple people to develop it multiple times because different people are needing it at different times.
Yeah, dude. And I think
So
to your oh,
so
go ahead.
one last thing, in the coming years, you know, the biggest usage of the biggest bump in technology use is going to be scanning, because that is the biggest that maximizes what you
Well,
get in one activity, right?
and the
Because
costs are
then
going to
you
come down.
Ish,
That's going to make it so much.
absolutely
That's going to make it
ish,
absolutely
ish. I'm gonna
ish.
but
say ish.
but
Yep.
it
There's a
goes
flip
in
side
hand
to
with
that
the
coin.
workflow and the process and the
That's
execution and
that's
implementation.
it.
You have to define the again. So a couple 20 minutes ago I said we're not really doing the first step of fundamental BIM, which is owner's requirements. What is the owner requirement? They don't want drawings in a building. They want true collaboration. That we're saying BIM, let's give them true collaboration and show them what that is, so that we can mitigate the risk and responsibility together, right? It's a
Yep.
group.
Yep.
It's a team effort.
Yep. And it's funny, but I like, to your point there, I feel like there are so many assets that should be managed in terms of that building. It's not just the equipment that's inside of the building, it's the building itself. Every part of that building, it's also the site, right? How can you manage the information of this site? And the entire site, like everything underground, everything is an asset that you should understand and you should manage as part of your process of growing, right? And I was telling Joey this earlier, dude. I don't know if you've gotten into InfraWorks yet or not, but InfraWorks has this what's called a model builder, right? And I love it because I first started getting in InfraWorks and I'm like, I'm going to type in this address and I want to see what information I can get with this. And next thing I know, I'm pulling the contours, the terrain. Yeah, right. I'm like, this is awesome. Okay, great. But I'm like, I start getting excited about this because in
It,
some ways I can see buildings and I can see where the buildings are sitting and I can see where the highway is, where these connectors are. And I'm like, all right, but I want more. Like InfraWorks in general is great, but I want to be able to pull
it's
something like that model builder database and have everything
yeah.
there, like where
BIM
the utilities, the connections are, everything, man.
BIM level data, but mineable.
Yeah.
The issue with InfoWorks is it's all open source data, which is pretty much just scan data. Pardon me.
Yep.
When
Which
you have when you have scan data, to your point, when we're talking about scanning, there has to be a use case that comes out of it. This is like road scanning data, right? We've scanned an area, we've captured buildings, we've captured the roadway. It's made its way into InfoWorks, and it's usable for setting up our site,
terrain
visualizations,
creation and things like that. Yeah, you
yeah.
can
Like
get
I used InfoWorks to create. Like I was telling you earlier where I lived in Portland, Johann. So I lived in Washington County, and they wanted me to have a survey done on my site to do all the development on my house that I had done. And so all I did is I just pulled InfoWorks data, did the 2 and 10 and Civil 3D. So I kicked out the surface from InfoWorks, Civil 3D, and brought it into Revit, did my modeling on it, and said, here you go. And that was it. I was done. I was like, all right, well, faked it. I'm good enough.
Yep.
You got the data you want, stamp it, and we're good to go. And InfoWorks serves a purpose in that. But Dave, we need to have, like, you are right, man. We need to have mineable BIM data to go along with it, because just having shape data, like, so in GIS we have shape files. Shape files are just there's not a lot of information.
There's lines
to
and
it.
blocks. Nah, dude, there's
There
nothing
is.
there.
But they're geolocated and there's mineable information.
Okay, that's
to it.
true. The geolocation is a huge portion of that, yes, but
But
also
I can't go into the building and slice it and find the information that I want. Yeah.
No, I can't click on that wall and see that. I can't see where that panel is that in that wall, where the existing gas lines come into it, or the electric connections and things like that. I mean, I feel like that's another part of the process or the assets of information that you can hand over to an owner.
But
right?
that, tying that back to what Johann said about scanning taking more precedence going forward. Again, the cost is going down. I noticed the Apple Watch on your arm there, man. The new iPhone, which I know like 20 people in my personal circle.
I have the old one, but yeah, I wish I had that LiDAR scanner right
LiDAR
there.
scanner, dude. Yeah.
Oh, man. They make
a lot of people test it out. I've been hearing some good results. I've been hearing mixed results in terms of accuracy, right, and getting it point on. But it's a cell phone, dude. It's a cell phone with a laser.
It's
like,
a
come
cell
on.
phone. Yeah, it's a low-grade IMU in it. So I've got an iPhone. You can't see it. iPad, whatever. It's the only Apple device in my house is this iPad. But like, I'm like seriously considering switching sides here, going, leaving all my Samsung stuff behind and diving wholly into, because of the LiDAR technology. So I follow Matthew Bird, who owns
Nexus Consulting.
Yeah, Nexus Consulting. As I say, next year, you're right, Nexus, and they do great stuff. He's out of what, Idaho or something.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
he works a lot with Kelly and those guys. It's great.
Oh yeah,
guys know a lot about scanning.
He uses our
great
total stations and stuff. Like he's ingrained with our brand, which is awesome. So I follow him on LinkedIn, and I've been tuning into all of his stuff, and he's showing off the accuracies of it and showing what you can do. And yeah, it's not great for
the front of his house.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
Yeah.
Like, small scale, it's good. Large model, maybe not so much. But the cost is coming down significantly. So you think about like self-driving cars. They have LiDAR scanners now that are $100 for self-driving cars, and this is only going to further drive consumer tech, which is only going to further drive commercial tech. For us on the construction side, scanning is going to get cheaper. It's going to get so much cheaper, but until we know the use case that comes out of it, all we're going to be doing is pulling generic geometry with no real data behind it. There has to be to your point earlier about unstructured data, we have to structure this data. So Dave and I do a lot of stuff with like Clear Edge 3D, right? So there's this product called Edgewise that'll turn that into BIM data.
That's exactly where I wanted to go with this too, dude. I'm like, man, it's great having a scan, right? But it's almost like a picture.
It's points, right?
It's exactly it, dude. You can look at stuff, it helps you to quantify and make some good decisions up front, but like
you have to tag information inside of that scan. So like Matterport creates a platform for different scan partners to tag information and geolocate that information inside that scan. And that's great, but I've already done that. I have a model. It has all that information in it. I just wanted to merge my as-built information with my model information and not have to recreate the wheel, not have to recreate my geometry over here, but somehow find a way to pull this structured information and merge it with this unstructured point cloud data. And we say unstructured point cloud data. I know point clouds are structured to an extent.
Some of them are.
Yeah, well, to an extent, right? There's different formats that we can have for structured data. But that said, even structured point clouds are still unstructured in a sense for our BIM
It's
data.
a block.
They're
It's a
individual.
block at that point.
Yeah. So how do we merge the information?
Okay, so at Mount McDonald, we try to promote a practice of developing technology plans. Okay, as part of our project execution plan. Okay, so this portion of the project execution plan dictates what software we're going to use, what the intent of that software is, what is the information that is exchangeable, interchangeable, and we provide that as the plan, as why we the reason why we're choosing these platforms, right? And that those decisions are made in directly to support our BIM goals, okay, our model uses, and that directly supports our owner goals, okay.
Yep.
So again, keep the end in mind. What is the owner goal? They don't want just a drawing. They want you to collaborate the best way, the most efficient way to save time and save money. How can we do that? Common data environment. But we need rules around that, right? And that's where that bad word contract comes into play. So let's
permissions, man. It's permissions.
Let's include the owner, right? And let's mitigate that risk together, because together we will provide you the product, the asset that you can maximize.
Yes. Yep.
I did work on a hospital project, and it was how do we get butts in beds faster? Like that was the bottom line. Like butts in beds faster. Like we need people filling these hospital beds as fast as possible. Not thinking of it in a morbid stance, but like we have a hospital to run, guys. Come on, let's fill it. Yep. How do we utilize all the tools possible to stay within scope as far as the information and the project timeline and the scope and all that stuff. Also with timeline, obviously. So scope and timeline and cost. How do we like do all this stuff and not make sure we're not exceeding our timeline? But if there's a way for us to scoot it in just a little bit, say 3 days, you're saving us more money than you could ever imagine, like $100,000 a day or some stupid number.
Well, I think that's where we start looking at the predictive analytics and we start looking at generative design, right? And we can start really combining those two and putting that up front with, okay, if we do it this way, we're going to save this much over this amount of time.
Everybody's selling us predictive analytics right now. Yeah. But the issue is we don't have a library of predictive analytics. Like we don't have a history dating back 10 years to say whose predictive analytics are better. One, that's obviously the bottom line. Who's got a better algorithm? But two, how useful are these predictive analytics? Are they flawed? Are they actually is it usable information? So the scenario I give people is, I've worked with so-and-so contractor on this type of project. We're 3 projects deep. And 2 out of the 3 times so far, we've hit this type of issue at this timeline or this milestone in the project. So I should get an alert saying I'm 36% more likely or 60% more likely, whatever the magic number is. Don't quote me on statistics. That we're gonna get this type of issue working with these subcontractors on this type of project. We don't have a history of those algorithms just yet. That pattern recognition, while it's been available for a long time, it doesn't have enough information. It doesn't have enough data. It doesn't have enough structured data to be able to pull all that and give us those analytics and get us to the next point. So like we've got all these file formats, whether it's Kobe, would you say UCF or I'm not familiar.
Uniformat 2.
Uniformat 2. See, man, I'm not on that side of things. The Uniformat 2, whether it's scan data, whether it's BIM information modeling, whether it's SIM information modeling, whatever it is, these platforms at the end of the day, there's got to be a holistic way to aggregate data for predictive analytics so that we can get to a point where we can recognize.
It's not ICF.
No, it's not ICF. That's geometry.
It's not ICF. Oh my
god.
No,
IFC.
IFC. I'm sorry.
You said ICF. I was thinking.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. It's not IFC. It's just not. I mean, that's where we're the industry
Dave
is
has
looking
just
to
showed
push
how
the
many
standard.
alcoholic beverages he's had.
Quite a few. Quite a few. I'm feeling very fine this podcast. No,
Yeah, I've
this Bubble podcast, but dude,
gone
I
down
don't think
quite a
it's
bit of my
IFC,
bottle
man.
there. Feeling
I
good.
just don't think it's IFC. I really don't, because I've gotten those files
It's
and I'm
geometry,
like,
right?
it's just geometry.
Well,
There's
there's
no
smart.
metadata there, man.
There's a smart.
Well, because it hasn't
IFC.
been developed,
Yep.
right?
There's a
That
smart IFC.
again, going back to the owner's requirements, they're
Yep.
not asking you for a building. I mean, they're not just asking you for a building. You made the choice to build the model. They
Yep.
didn't tell you to use CAD or Revit.
Yep.
You chose to do it. So we then, as the owner, want you to maximize the use of that tool. Don't
Yep.
just use it for design authoring. Use it for actual clash detection. Use it for analytics.
Flash
Use it
prevention.
exactly. Use it in
Yeah.
multiple ways so that we can maximize the use of it.
Yep.
That's really what the owner needs to hear, is that yeah, these tools can be used in the traditional way to provide the traditional deliverables, but we can maximize it way more. And in the end, I guarantee you it will benefit the owner.
Yep.
What do you
Yep.
think about this? I mean, this has been coming. I won't say it's commonplace, but there's a handful of companies out there now doing it where their owners, they provide the family information, right, the Revit data, to a specific LOD that they require for their systems. They in turn kind of almost control the supply chain going along with it, but they control the data from day one with their own standards leading into it, their own platform. Yes, you can use your Revits, your CADs, your ArchiCADs, or whatever the hell else people use in other countries. I'm not sure. This is America. We use Revit.
It's American Rivet. Jeez, Louise, dude.
No, I mean there's a dozen applications out there, and
Blender.
But hey, man, open source. Yes. Hey,
Yes.
man, I
There you
love
go.
Maya. I love 3ds Max. But I've seen a lot of great stuff done with Blender, man. It's a cool visualization
Anything
tool.
open source, I think, is just awesome. The fact that
Yeah.
you leave it. I mean, it is.
QGIS has a lot to be
No,
desired.
QGIS, yeah.
But
There's
yeah.
a they're working on a GIS Blender add-on, which looks
Oh.
pretty good.
I'll have to check it out, man. I I was a college kid once on a budget and used a bunch of open source data. So like SPSS, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's a statistical analytics software. It is so ridiculously expensive, overpriced for any college kid to ever pay for their own license. We were only ever given a 30-day student license, but there was an open source version of it. So we would use the open source version of it, which is completely free, obviously, to do all of our stuff. And it worked damn near the interface was different, but it worked just as good as the overpriced, MATLAB, SPSS plugin, blah, 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 blah. I don't know, man. I love open source data.
Yeah, that's kind of that is also one thing I did want to mention today is the OS Arc group on LinkedIn. It's a great group. There's so much information on how to use these open source platforms for the AEC industry. It's headed by this guy called Dion Molt. So yeah, open source I think is very promising because again, for owners, they're looking at cost, right? And if they can save money in
$10,000 a license.
in the licensing, and they just need to define a workflow, around specific requirements, then and then they just have to train people to use that platform. That's the way they're going to go, right?
So is OS Arc a tool itself, or is that just the open source community for GIS?
It's the open source community for open source AEC software. So OS Arc, yeah.
All right, man. I'll have to give this a follow him on Reddit or wherever, man.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn group. All right.
OS Arc, yeah.
Jumping on this,
one of
man.
the things that I'm really looking forward to is they've released some updates for their Ladybug platform, which is sort of what I would say their Dynamo slash Grasshopper platform is.
Grasshopper, yeah, it's
Well,
And
funny.
man,
Dynamo's
it
open
is
source though, man. That's crazy.
right. It's just this works more with Blender and the
Mm.
open source platforms already available there. So yeah, that yeah, again, maximizing these platforms is really what is going to help consultation firms stand out, right, and
Yep.
provide better services
So,
to the clients and owners.
so I have a friend who has written some of the most used Dynamo scripts for. He lives like 30 minutes from me. He's written some of the most used Dynamo scripts for integrating between Revit and Dynamo, Revit and Rhino rather. And it's all pretty much Dynamo scripts, converting data back and forth, all that sort of stuff. The guy is a freaking genius. Talking about Revit, Rhino, and all the different applications out there, though, have you seen any kind of issues going between different applications as far as being able to capture certain information, sharing certain information, and adopting these technologies? Like, so I'll give you an example real quick. I have a firm that, they were ArchiCAD, but they found out that nobody could collaborate with them in the native file formats, and there was, here in the U.S. rather, it's a painstay adopting Autodesk products. They didn't want to pay the extra money. Autodesk is the 800-pound gorilla. They've had a bad taste in their mouth for whatever reason with AutoCAD architecture, whatever it is. They're an architecture firm. So now they're forced to go into Revit to work with other people. Do you think that there is a stigma, I guess, or a better way to integrate these platforms that aren't the 800-pound gorillas in the room for integrating and collaborating with other people? We're talking about collaborating for the owner's benefit. So is this this has to be in mind, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of that is presentation, right? The owner. I hope that the owner's perspective is that we're hiring you because you're the professional, right? We're hiring you because you can figure this out. But it's about processes and defining. Again, I talked about how Mount McDonald uses technology plans. We're gonna define why we're using this platform, and we're gonna define the roles. We're gonna define the data drops. We're gonna find the data format so that we can verify that that matches what the owner needs in the end. So um that the answer I think there is going to be process and execution, right?
All right. So Dave and I deal specifically in Revit and AutoCAD. Well, pretty much Autodesk in general. We live inside of Autodesk products, with the exception of Bluebeam and a few others. We're not only are we resellers and vendors of this whole thing and platinum partners, but it's what we understand. It's what we've always worked in. I've always worked in, Civil 3D, AutoCAD, Inventor, and Revit. Those are the four main products I've ever used in my life. In the Autodesk ecosystem, rather, with the exception of ArcGIS. These are what's being taught in college. So how do you approach a new project with somebody who's mandating something that is not a software that is defined? Is kind of a hairball question here, but that is not defined, or sorry, not defined, but rather not the norm, right? Say a firm that you're working with says, look, we need this format, this layout to integrate to our system. How does that work with firms that um, traditionally work in one piece? And I'll give you an example. So I work a lot with DOTs. DOTs use, say, Bentley MicroStation products, and most civil engineering firms use Civil 3D. So how do you bridge that gap for the owner who is using said software to kind of make sure that there's an information handover, right? A real information handover, a meaningful information handover.
Exactly, and it goes back down to helping the owner, um, help the owner define those information requirements, right? You know, we need this information to be to play well with different platforms. So we need to understand which format they expect us to deliver it, regardless of what platform. You know, define which platform you use has to be as a result of what the owner needs, right? You know, yeah,
Right,
if you're
it's a deliverable, dude. That's it. That what information does that owner need? What deliverable do they need? How can they use it? That's really what we should be thinking of. Not can we use AutoCAD here? Can we use it? It's how can the owner translate the information? Is it going to benefit them more to use, Plant 3D, or of course I'm just naming like Autodesk, you know, platforms here, but because that's what I know. But
Tekla
it's
structures,
it's Tekla structures. It's I can't remember what is it, Vectorworks or something like that.
Vectorworks, yeah,
It's whatever it is. It's how can they use that information? What is
What do you
what's
mean
the
you can't
best tool?
remember? They're the owners of, aren't they the
Nemetschek.
owners
They're
of
Nemetschek.
Bluebeam?
Bluebeam.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Bluebeam,
Nemetschek.
man.
Yep. Well,
Oh,
I
man.
don't know, dude. I'm biased. You know what I mean? I start looking
Oh,
at
me
stuff
too.
like I
Revit!
start looking at
Wow!
3D design programs, and I'm like, yeah, but why do you not have parameters in here? That's great. You can give me a block, but why can't I have information with it?
I
You know,
can't
yeah.
edit attributes. What's going on here, guys?
But at the same time, I've realized that I have to have that. Well, the open mind. You got to have an open mind in this industry, and really think about, okay, what tools are going to benefit the deliverable here? What is going to be best to give them the data that they need? Now, the hard part there is really having an educated owner, right? Because the owner might not know what they need. And then you have anybody that can take advantage of them and say, ha, we'll give you this LOD
Well,
200 or LOD
you and
180.
I have experienced this. We have
Oh,
a
yeah.
very large owner, like
Here's this
one of the
model, but it has
largest
no
owners,
information in it.
one of the largest city governments in the country has
Yeah.
requested BIM. They've got BIM on a project. BIM comes through.
BIM.
They have here's your BIM. They're happy. They're done. Box is checked. A year goes by. Project floods. Oh, no problem. We don't have O&M. The O&M's, completely shit, right? The paper guides are shit. Not an issue. We have a digital model. Let's go back to that digital model. Oh, shit. It's just boxes and
These are just blocks. Is this a cube? What information does this have? Where was this from? This was from the author, made by this date. Yeah, that's great.
Next project, that same owner goes out and says, we're going to spend $2 million defining what the hell BIM is because we are not getting screwed again.
right.
So,
Yeah.
go ahead, man.
And then you have, as an owner, you have to define it 3 times, okay? Well, actually more than that. You have to define it at every phase of the project because there's different requirements of building information management for the owner at different phases. Like I said, the design team, the contractor team, they're the one making the choice to use 3D or 2D.
Yeah.
It's not the owner, right? The owner's like, hey, you say 3D, okay, then that's the chance where the owner can say, okay, well, I want you to maximize it and make sure that the design is collaborated and make sure that the information can be translated through construction, through operations, because I don't want the contractor to receive your model and look at it and say, this is a this is a closeout model. No, I can't quantify anything here. I can't do my construction activity planning with this model. So guess what? Sorry, I'm gonna have to charge you because I gotta build another model for my purposes, right?
Yeah.
So that's where we're falling in these pitfalls where it's I think it's about mitigating the responsibility and making sure that the owner has the chance to define these requirements ahead of time, and we educate them to be aware of these requirements.
Yep. I completely agree. You got to have those consultants out there who are going to educate them. If you don't have like that knowledge, that previous experience to be able to approach this pilot or this project, I say a lot of times owners should be looking for these consultants, but you should look for a consultant that's knowledgeable in the process. They're not just one size fits all, right? In the sense of we need BIM, we need SIM, we need. I mean, there's so many different parts of this. Like BIM and
These are
SIM
all
are great, but how does it fit into our FM, right? How is this going to translate into my facilities management? How is this going to translate into asset management? How am I going to archive this data? How am I going to update it? Like what low cost solution can I try to find to keep this information updated so that when I move down the timeline of my building and I'm ready to update it, how can I use this data? This data isn't going to essentially. I always think about college credits here. Yeah, we'll give you, however many credits for this, but it's not going to translate to that college or this college or anywhere else. Like I have this data, but it doesn't go anywhere. What the fuck did I just do? Oh, excuse me.
yeah.
What
So,
did I just do with
oh,
my
hey, man,
time?
this is a
Boom.
kid-friendly
This is
podcast, guys.
right. Gosh.
Ah, dang, I can't check. So when I upload this to YouTube, there's two boxes. Is this adult or is this kid friendly? I always check this is adult. This is never kid
Okay,
friendly.
good.
We're good, man.
Friendly. Okay.
But going off of what you were saying there, real quick, Johann, question to you: do you ever see a third party consultant come in and kind of have to define this just a little bit more? So like preface this. I work, I know you, right? But I
It's
work with
literally, yeah.
I work
It's
with this
literally. Go ahead,
amazing
sorry.
guy. His name's I don't know if you ever worked with him. His name is David Corticus. He works for shout out to BIM Synergistics. Dave Corticus is
Yeah.
a great guy on the coordination
Yeah.
side. You worked with him?
Yeah, no, I actually we had a chat. We interviewed each other for about an hour and a half last year. So yeah, I know Dave.
You know Dave, man. All
I
right.
know, I know. Small
Yeah,
world.
instead of Dave's not here, everybody knows
Yeah.
Dave, man. Dave is here. I
Dave's
like
cool,
Dave.
man.
He's a
Shout
great
out.
guy. Yeah,
Yeah, he's
shout out to
great.
Dave Porticus, man. Like I had this call with a firm in Ohio who's like, they're like, look, we think we know BIM, and then we get this third party consultant in, and they're like, dude, you don't know shit. And it's like, oh, okay. And they like just blow them away. They're phenomenal. And I'm like, yeah, I work with that guy. His name is Dave Corticus. He gets it. Like
Yeah.
he I don't know, man. Like shout out to Dave. Just can't give enough props to him, man. I can't wait to have him back on another episode. But that said, like, do you ever come across these consultants? So you're at one level, right? But there's all these people underneath you. Do you ever have to work with, say, a consultant that's representing your electrical firm or your mechanical firm or whoever else has got the scope on the project? I'm not sure what you're responsible for. Who comes in and just helps just define stuff because they are not part of either the design team or the owner's team. They just come in as a third party rep.
Sure. So two answers to this. Just like David, you'll find that anybody who knows can define BIM requirements very well for an owner. They've branched out and they're doing it on their own, right? That they're providing that consultation services throughout all phases of design, right? And they're doing that, by themselves. Um, that's what I see a lot there. So, and there's not a lot of them, like you said, there's just not enough for the need out there, right? Where we really need to educate all these stakeholders as to what it is, the project needs other than drawing specs in a building. We're getting that already, right? What it is that we need to maximize this asset. And the second part to that answer is uh, with Mott McDonald, what what we do, or what we're trying to do with digital delivery is we've set up a network that we've reached out to our region, our North American region, and we've reached out and tried to identify subject matter experts, right? So that when a project starts, you know, that project manager has resources and that they can rely on and that we can provide some guidance on how to set up a technology plan, how to do a BIM execution
So Mott
planning
McDonald's
process.
a big company. How many employees do you guys have nationally?
Internationally.
International. You're a global company,
He's
man,
like,
like
wait.
us,
Global.
right? We're global.
Yeah, internationally, I think we have upwards to 4,000 employees.
We are roughly the same size, man.
Yeah,
Our employer is about 5,000 and for I don't know 4,500 somewhere around there, and
yeah.
yeah, and you guys are in that ballpark. And I don't know if you know this, but Dave and I, we're outside of our company, we're international as well. Uh,
Dude,
32 countries and counting.
32 countries, dude. That was nuts. I seen that
You know, nothing.
Spotify report, dude, and I was like, holy cow, 32
Yeah,
countries. Who would have
thousands
thought?
of listeners. I love it, man.
Dude,
This
this is
podcast
awesome.
has
Thank
been
you
the
so much,
funnest.
guys, for listening to us. Everybody out there,
Yeah,
thank you so
dude,
much.
this has been like the most fun thing we've ever done. Like, just hey, we're two guys BSing about BIM, and we get to interview cool ass people like Johann. So this is
Right?
cool.
Exactly.
So
Get to
so
learn more.
to tie it back though, hey man, orange cup, I love it. Bullet, Johann there. You guys, Mott McDonald. How many resources do you guys have in your territory? Because the reason why I ask is the Pacific Northwest, in my mind, is kind of a mecca for BIM. You kind of stand out in this whole role. So, how many people are you leaning on as subject matter experts to kind of pull from? Like, is it a diverse pool?
Yeah, it's a diverse pool because we've identified specific topics that we want to focus on. You
Mhm.
know, first of all, we want to focus on BIM, right? We want to focus on defining BIM through all the various phases of the life cycle of the asset, right? But we also want to define or help provide guidance on how to execute BIM, but also how to execute a common data environment.
Yep.
And that is interesting because Mott McDonald partnerships with multiple firms on projects, and the size of our partners varies, right? So part of our digital delivery initiative is that we see the need that we need to upscale or help educate our partners too. So by defining our processes and workflows and documenting, we also have the chance to educate our other project participants so that we really maintain that end goal of collaborating together, right? And not just having this little partner that's doing has a little scope, do their stuff in AutoCAD. Nah, let's integrate them and let's upscale them so that they can be a bigger, you know, a
So,
larger stake of the project.
Yep.
looking back, right? So earlier in the conversation, I discussed a few customers. It's not just one; it's several clients of mine that work for Penn State or have worked for Penn State. Let's say in regards to their BIM executable plan, right? Their BIM project, their project. I can't even speak. Their freaking their
Is this
damn BIM
back to
plan.
the
Yeah.
podcast? Oh man, there we go.
Are we talking? Is this? What are these things coming out of my mouth? Do you not understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Oh, sorry, man. A little Chris Rock there.
Yep.
So like thinking back to this part, right? Like where there was an issue with data translation, common data environments, the issue for them on multiple different subcontractors and contractors on this project that they worked on, decades ago has still been, yeah, we adopted BIM. Here's Revit. We have this tool. It's great. It's awesome. But we don't actually really use it. We have 3D geometry. We use it to flip and spin models and extract data, and then we send it to our surveyors who are on site, or we do layouts. But here's IFC data that comes in from Tekla, and there's no common data environment. So my question to you is, bridging all these gaps, David. Bridging all these
Oh,
gaps.
cheers.
Everybody take a shot. Everybody take a shot. We said bridging gaps, so that's a shot. All right. Every time we say bridging gaps, hashtag, there's a shot that gets taken. So thinking about all these different technologies and these different partners on a project, right, that come in at different, even if the owner is intelligent enough to say, say what they want, all these projects come in at different phases, different streams of the project. The issue with common data environments and how they share data, not only internally, but externally, has always been an issue. So say for the architect, right? The architect's like, oh yeah, here's our design intent. We're going to share it with the engineer. The engineer's like, oh yeah, great, great, great. Blah, blah, blah. We have to redraw your walls because you didn't share you didn't cloud share this model to us, and we don't have work sharing set up, and blah, blah, blah. We have to redo everything, but here it is, and we're going to give it to our guys downstream and via Dropbox, and blah, blah, blah. You can see the iterations between that, but you can't see any more information. And those guys downstream get the information. They're like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So here's this data, and I'm going to share it to you, Mr. Drywall Contractor, via PDF. But it's not a PDF-based, it's not like a version management PDF system. I'm just sending you new PDFs once every month and hoping that there's not too many changes in between. Like, there's a lot of iterations that go in between that. So, like, what have you found as the really purpose-driven common data environment? Like, what's the tool that you think of when you think of CDE or whatever this new buzzword is? When we think about, this is a long-winded explanation, by the way, I apologize. What is this tool that you think of when you think of like common data environments? Like, what is this way to share information, but not just share geometry? Because we can share geometry in a 3D PDF. What is this way to share geometry and information and all the stuff for all the people downstream? What are you using? I'm just curious.
Sure. And it is not a one platform solution ever.
Nope.
Never is,
dude.
It
So
never is.
what's funny is I wanted to say, I this entire time you were talking, Joe and Johann, when you were talking, all that's popping up in my head is the whole strengths and weaknesses kind of ideal, right? Where you're looking at the different strengths and weaknesses that different softwares, different processes, different contractors, different people that you work with, right? Everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses in terms of what they can offer you and where they're weak at, right? Revit itself, great in visualization, great in architecture. We're getting there in mechanical. Are they, where they need to be in fabrication parts? No, that's where we're going to have to bring in another platform. It's just figuring out that data, right, in terms of what is beneficial to you and what's going to, I would say, be positive over that negative, and what is acceptable, and also in all of that you guys were saying, it's setting expectations, right? If you can set those expectations and know, okay, we can get you this far, and this is where this next contractor needs to step in, or this person needs to step in, and they're going to be able to take you to this point, and this person will be able to take you to this point. Because if you can deliver that up front, if you can set those expectations up front, you can set that project timeline and the overall budget at something where everybody is going to say, I agree. And this is actually going to happen. Instead of, yeah, even though you're weak in this, I expect you to deliver this in 2 weeks or 4 weeks. And these people are struggling on the other end, trying to figure out how to do this. Even though you knew they were weak at it, you can't, you have to figure out what pieces of this puzzle that you can use in terms of BIM or SIM or whatever the hell it is that you're going to use. How can these pieces fit together, and how can I match them up to make this like perfect little conglomerate that's going to work for me, right? I'm not spending too much money, but it's going to give me these results and this data that I can use in this way.
Yeah. And a lot of the times, at least in my experience, BIM is a requirement that is already placed on the project.
Yep.
I'm just like,
what part
they
of BIM are
tell
you
me-
trying to use, though?
They tell me, they tell me, okay, we saw this project as a BIM project. That's why we got you
40,
here.
5D, 60,
Exactly.
70. What is it, guys?
So a lot of the times, not a lot of times, this is the reason why a BIM execution plan is so important
Yes.
because the planning department and
That
the
sets
the
the
group
expectations. Yeah.
the group that is winning the job and saying that yes, our team can do BIM and we can do clash detection and resolution. We got this, right? But you go back to the people that are actually doing it, and they're like,
Yeah, I was gonna say they don't know what they're doing. Yeah.
you know, especially with
Wait
the
a minute.
services in
Yep.
design. If you're talking about MEP, they're gonna look at you like, look, we know, we know, we're gonna bid you a model, but trust me, it is not gonna be what the fabrication model looks like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well,
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're already setting ourselves for failure.
You're setting yourselves up for
well,
failure. Yeah, dude.
here's the issue with that, though, right? So the fabrication model, and just to speak from an MEP standpoint, like I love these guys. These are the guys I relate with the most. I'm a survey guy by background, and I worked in construction layout. But so dealing with the stop gaps as far as like Revit and all that sort of stuff, like I relate with ME. Well, not MEP, but M and P. Electrical, you guys are the redheaded stepchilds. Just hate to say it. Uh, it is
How
what it is.
dare you, sir?
It is what it is, guys, right? And I love electrical. I love you guys, but fabrication MEB had nothing for you, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, that's
So
definitely true.
Yeah.
it was not a big leap for you. You can figure it out. But the mechanical and piping guys, right? So, we've got a lot of prefabrication on our side that happens, speaking from an MNP specific role, right? The issue is the software Revit does not do a lot of what we wanted to do for the prefabrication purposes. So we actually have to kick out our Revit model to another software, right? Fabrication Academy P or whatever we're using to create these files, and we can bring those back into Revit, but only as an MAJ file. Revit only allows us to bring in one, which is stupid, without a plugin. Sorry, guys. Just harp on that a bit. There are plugins. Shout out to Britton Langdon, who was on our episode, like 3 episodes ago.
Yes.
His tool allows you to bring in multiple MAJ files, so we can bring them back into Revit and actually utilize them from different system standpoints, which is great.
But going back to the point of it, it's setting the expectations and knowing the software's strengths and weaknesses, right? You have
That's
to
what
know.
I was gonna say.
It is, but why are we beholden to software weaknesses when
No.
we
Bro,
can
wait a
define
minute.
It's
No,
expectations.
it is.
It's-
It's setting
it's not
expectations.
weaknesses,
That's it.
it's
It's knowing what
Ah,
expectations.
you can
still
and
my
cannot
thing.
do. So you know where to start and where to stop. Because if
Exactly.
you know that this program is weak here, okay, cool. Let's stop and let's go into this other program. And where are our SMEs? Where are our subject matter experts? Where can I have this person who I'm spending $30, $40 an hour to detail this? Where can I make sure that it is optimal that they are spending their time, right? We know that Revit is, let's say Revit is not as great in dimensioning
there's
and making sure
design
that,
and then there's drafting. We have
well,
design.
yeah.
Design's going to get you
Well,
your
and then
That's the
there's
system.
thing.
fabrication.
You're
Yeah.
right. You're absolutely right. I think that specifically with the services consultants that are working with MEP, they fall into this trap where they have to provide documentation to show design intent.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the biggest reason why there's contract changes or design changes is because the existing condition isn't captured right.
Yes, that's it, dude.
You know how
You know
this is
what's
set. You know how
Right.
this is
And
all
so
solved,
Yes.
then
right?
and wait, and then
Yep.
then you think that your design is done. Engineers like, look, I gave you a pipe run from here to here. I know that it's the right size and it'll give me the
Yep.
right pressure for the right system and the right thing that I'm pushing through it. But then you get to the electrical guy and he's like, well, I got this big VAV here. Like you can't put a pipe through here.
Nope.
And I have specific clearance issues. So your pipe that looks close really needs to move like a foot away, and you're going to need to add 3 bends to it. So then the engineer's like, oh, I got to add 3 bends. I got to recalculate this thing.
Yes.
So then
dude.
you find that loop where it's
Yep.
like, have we really done design collaboration,
No.
coordination?
No.
Before we done documentation, we haven't. And
No, you
specifically with
haven't.
services,
Exactly.
we fall into that trap.
we're all talking over each other. I apologize, but you know where we're getting at with this concurrent fucking engineering. God damn it!
Well, dude, I mean, it's all of it, right? I mean, it's the same damn thing that he's talking about. It has
But
to
get
be
to that,
like
get to
real
that piece
time
of
type
concurrent engineering. It's to get not only do we have engineering in progress, right? The engineers are saying what they need, but you have the subcontractors coming in and saying, look, this does not work that way. Sorry, you've got this, but you're not
That's why
accounting
you
for
need the common data environment. That's why you need it. That's why you need it, man. You need to have you need to understand.
I wish I knew
not
how
an
to throw up
expert
gang signs
in
because I would throw up
everything.
CDE in a gang sign.
Exactly, exactly. Because
Yo, no,
yeah,
but common data
no,
environments,
he's
man. That's
right.
where we're at.
He's right because the CDE, we're building individually at different phases all these CDEs, and then we're just spending so much time maintaining these CDEs that to contain the accurate information, the right models. If I don't have the right models from the design side, I can't clash, the design, and I can't do issue for fabrication. Dude, we fall into these traps consistently, right? So again, let's educate the owner, right? Let's show them that their involvement isn't a risk, right? It's actually, we're mitigating the risk together. The risk is there.
Yep.
Right.
It's already
But
there.
let's help together to define this project in a way that we can work together and provide the owner the right thing, and that they can maximize it and analyze it and say, you know what, I've been changing this filter, or this belt has been breaking, 3 times in a row before its life. You know what? It's going to cost me way more. It's going to save me way more money to replace it now than to wait for the life expectancy to come up and fix all the issues. That's what the owner wants. They don't want drawings. They don't want specs.
So
They
we've
don't
talked
need
about
specs or drawings. They want the data.
they don't need it. All right,
They
we've
don't
talked
need it.
about this. They don't need it. We've talked. I feel like this should be like a Seinfeld episode, and we needed some guy to be the Kramer, the really eccentric guy. We don't need it. No soup for you. We don't need it, right? But to define these processes, not just processes, but just find like what's needed, takes really educated people. And we talk about BIM, and we think about I always hear about this like when I'm talking about design to people. I'm like, oh yeah, we can show you how to design this, and here you go. Oh, but I always butt heads with my, project manager or the guy out in the field or whoever it is tells me that this can't be done this way. And it's like, well, that's a training process for you to learn what they know. But really, at the bottom line is, if we had their knowledge in your head, like, the 3D software, and this is where we're getting at as millennials. Like, Johann, you're probably our age, man, I imagine.
1985.
84, baby. What are you,
Wow.
87?
89.
You're fucking a baby.
This baby.
This baby right
Look
here.
at you guys, you geezers on here. Jeez.
This guy doesn't even know how to spell BIM. This guy.
You old people even know what BIM is?
Do you even know what Atari is?
I do know what Atari is. I started out on the Atari. I was like, Pong is amazing.
You using Commodore 64, bro?
Tony Hawk, okay? Do you know what Tony Hawk is, bro?
I'm Tony Hawk all day, man. Oh man, some 41, man. Anyways.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
Some
but
41.
I sing that fat lip shit in my head all
I
day,
love
man.
Sum 41. I actually got to see them in concert, dude. It was legit.
Nice.
Phoenix, Texas, and Sum 41, man. They're both on the Tony Hawk soundtrack. I love it.
Yep.
They're great.
Yep.
Anyways, man, sorry. Not to
another tangent.
Another tangent. That's what we do. But thinking about in terms of God, 89, fucking big. You were younger than my wife. What the hell is wrong with you? My wife is 88. You're a child.
I am.
I could have had you out of my loins at 5.
Oh
Anyways.
Oh, good Lord.
Sorry.
No,
Call me daddy, bitch. Anyways, I'm out of alcohol.
This is
Sorry.
definitely an adult show.
Yeah, this is
episode.
definitely an adult podcast
I'm
now.
clicking
That's for
kid on this next.
I joke, I kid.
A kid. But anyways, my point was like I don't know how my point was, but my point was talking about like BIM and Sim. What the hell were we talking about, guys? Sorry, man. We got way off tangent. You were talking about something, Johann, and Dave.
we
You
were
brought
talking
up.
about we were talking about CDE, right?
Yeah, a
we were
common
talking about
data
we
environment.
were talking about the importance of the CDE, and again, like we need to educate the owner to take a bigger part in that.
Yes.
Oh
yes.
yes,
One of the things I'm telling my owners is, hey, let's host the BIM 360, right? Let's do that because right now we got two BIM 360 sites right now, one for one side, one for the construction side, and they're spending
we
more
bring 'em
time
together?
uploading and downloading
Yeah,
than
dude.
they are actually
Why make
spending time.
copies? Why are you trying to
So-
download a copy of the model when you literally could have a link that live updates? Like seriously, I mean, really, this is what we want to look at the end of the day when everybody is making this design, decisions, when everybody's setting expectations. They want this information. They want as much information as they can take in, right? But at the same time, they're like, well, how much information do we really want to share? Well, wait a minute. So we need to have this, beneficial symbiotic relationship of it, like, let's go ahead and publish every so often. Like, I mean, I'm not saying a live linking, right? Because that's
in some ways, depends on, again, services.
It depends on what you're doing.
Don't live link, but if you're architectural structural, why not live link?
Exactly.
You're not changing.
That's the opposite mentality of what I've been saying, though, man. So I've been telling architects not to live link. Well, architects, engineers, they can live link with each other. But everybody else, you don't want to see all the architectural changes.
Dude,
like
I
if the
would love
architect's
to be a
sharing.
structural engineer and I could live link as an architect.
No.
Architectural.
Like it's okay. So there's a subsect, right? Architectural engineering, live link. But if I'm on the MVP side, I don't want to see all those damn changes.
Oh, definitely
but
not.
They should be done. The programming of the facility of the building should be done.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be walls moving. There shouldn't be
the footprint
wet room.
There should be, but you and I know there are.
Absolutely. But then again, that's part of defining the milestones. That's part of defining the schedule. That's part of defining the owner requirements, right? And the collaboration requirements. We can't get the work done. We can't issue for fabrication if we don't have the information to actually clash.
Yes, dude, right? That's it. You need to be able to clash. You need actually, you know what? I want to take it a step above. Joey, I'm done with this clash detection. I want clash prevention. Oh, Joey's done with the bottle. But I want clash prevention, dude. I'm done with clash detection because it's a thing of the past, right? It's already happened. It's already happened. It's garbage. It's already
okay. So
late.
in design phase,
you're benefiting the owner, the architect, not the owner.
Yes.
You're not the architect. Sorry, you're benefiting the construction firms, not the owner when we talk about clash detection. It doesn't benefit the owner.
In the
they don't pay anymore.
But
you
in the
fucked
end,
up, not them.
But in the end, it's cheaper for the owner.
It is because it's less rework. You're right. But at the same time, if you think of clash prevention instead of clash detection, that's rework in terms of design. Like you think of rework, right? Yes. We think of rework as so many different things. Rework can be in the design. It can be in construction itself. Like clash detection is rework itself. If I had clash prevention, where I have every model live linked to each other, right? And as I'm detailing, as I'm drafting, it tells me, no, you can't do this because it's going to interfere with this system. You say, okay, cool. Guess what? There's no clash detection for that because it was avoided. You just go around it, you detail, you draft as you need to, and you keep moving. And guess what? Clash detection becomes a thing of the past.
I'm going to call you the B in BIM. Bitch! No,
well, okay. Here's the thing.
It's happening, man. The new coordination. So, Johann, have you followed the new platform? You're on this major project. You're integrated with software. Things probably don't change. Yeah, I see the eyebrows. Love it, man. Dave and I are. I don't know, Dave. I don't know how much you're beta testing these days, but I'm a beta tester of BIM, dating back 10 years and every evolution of. And I see what's possible. I see what we're doing today, and I know what Autodesk announced at AU. There is a BIM collaboration where we can integrate our BIM processes or design processes rather.
What it is?
What's that?
It's BIM Collaborate Plus, right, or something like that.
Plus,
because you got to get the plus, man. You got to get the more features. Yeah.
Well, should be a time. No, plus. Yeah.
Wakanda.
Oh,
Wakanda forever!
Wakanda forever.
Oh man,
Dude, I'm gonna miss Chadwick. That's
Chadwick Boseman. That broke my heart. My son is obsessed with Marvel. So this year we got him a Marvel Advent calendar. It's the 80th anniversary, which came out last year.
Nice.
Yeah, I like that.
Man, I'm just saying. But he got that crap, and he is like, I want Black Panther, but he got the Black Panther from like 1970s. And he's like, no, the new Black Panther.
Same.
Yeah, it ain't the same, man. He's got like a cape and shit. It's not the same. He's like, yeah, we'll go forever. Anyways, man, I'm all about that shit. So thinking about the new BIM 360, where we're going and where people will be going with the platform, I have a dear friend. I have a few dear friends on the development platform for BIM 360. Let's just say layout, I guess, for lack of a better term, who integrate the layout side of things, which is through model coordination. Layout dictated model coordination. Model coordination is now going to dictate the collaboration component. Where we are going with this platform in the future, I think it's going to change a lot of things forever, man. I think there's going to be a deeper integration between design and collaboration. Are you using that platform? You gave a little signifier of what you're using.
Yes. So our project groups are using design collaboration to shared published models and sets of drawings, right? And we are starting to use model. What did I just say?
Coordination. Model coordination.
Sorry. So we're just going to be using model coordination to start looking into the models, meaning that the client is actually going to start looking into the work in progress models on the design side, really just for access, just to kind of see the progress that's happening, and to generate questions and concerns based on the elements available. So yeah, we're definitely using the BIM 360 tools, the BIM 360 modules. I think that for the asset module, we still have, well, first for the coordination module, there still needs some work in terms of
you need a federated
yeah, and like clash detection settings and tools and rules.
And
like
you need to be able to detect like you need to actually clash a 3D piping network from Civil 3D against a Revit structure, and to be able to know where everything is in that model, whether I just don't, I don't know, dude. I mean, I see it coming, right? It's
There's
getting
work to be done. Yeah, it's getting there, but it's not there yet. So yeah. I think that if anything, Autodesk is looking for partners to beta test this and to develop some use cases for it. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
So two things there. Your lead up into the question kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, made me feel like you were more familiar or more reliant on tools like BIM 360 Glue as opposed to the new model coordination. Is that correct?
Well, again, it is dependent on the intent, right? We're just
depends on the project.
Yeah, we're using document
Document
Could be the same
management.
project
Or you
though.
can docs, right?
Yep.
Really as just a place to save models.
It's a repository. That's what it is.
Exactly. You know, and it isn't until now that the design consultants are saying, or actually the contractors are coming out and saying, hey, you know, here's this, you know, asset module that we can use to extract the information from the models in document management, and we can interact with them. But then, you know, the what we're seeing is that they're separate hubs, right?
Yep.
You got a design hub and a construction hub. So
Yeah,
that's why I
dude.
keep promoting,
So-
hey, owner, let's take on that responsibility. And then you have the chance to provide more requirements. And there you have your chance to say, hey, this is exactly what I want coordination to be.
I know Joey wants to talk right now.
Oh,
Anyways,
you're
I know,
killing me,
dude,
man.
you're going, but dude, I want to say,
Oh,
like, in
gosh,
this
look.
sense, this is where I want owners to say, all right, I want my contractor
There has to be a
involved
specification.
in the in the design kind of portion of this model, because then we can have you create issues and say, hey man, you know what, this isn't really constructible. I'd rather see it designed like this, and let's do this because this is how we would build it. And in that sense, you don't need 2 or 3 different models, right? You get
Yep.
one. Once you can start to bring everybody into that common data environment, you're creating communication, like pathways of communication. And people that don't know, well, you don't know, now you know, right?
Now you
So,
know. Boom.
oh, Biggie right there, dude. But like, you
You're
can
going
start
East Coast. I want to go
everybody.
West Coast, man. I want to drive some regulators on these fools, man. Come on, man. Regulate. We still this property. We damn good too. No, I'm
Oh
just kidding.
gosh, dude.
Sorry. Sorry.
Joey's feeling it today.
Right. But man,
That's what
I'm
happens
just
when you drink
like,
about half a bottle of whiskey, bud.
Yeah.
No,
if we can like bring everybody up with that process in terms of, hey, you know what, you're not really needed in this way in the past, but you don't need to build anything yet, but we need your knowledge, we need your
Yeah.
wisdom, in this sense of, go ahead and please just spread your wisdom on us, share it with us, like let's go, we're designing this, and this designer, this drafts person who's straight out of college may not understand. Sprinkle it on there. You know, they
Yeah.
may not understand how it needs to go together, but this contractor who has, you know, 10, 15, 20 some years in the industry knows how this is built and can literally tell them, right? Or drawing something up to say, okay, hey, let's put this here, we need this here. If you help them to understand, it's only going to help everybody else to grow. It's not, you're not sharing project specific, like valuable information. What you can do is make sure that this project helps, like you help that project reach the end goal, right? In the sense of, let's all get this done together.
Keep the end in mind.
Yes, dude, exactly.
So what you're saying, man, brings up a million fucking points, dude. I'm like, let's fire on all cylinders and like go down these rabbit holes. Yeah. But I actually think what you're saying, man, ties us all together, and it's actually a pretty good way for us to wrap this up. Maybe I'll pick this up on BIM is more than models. Hashtag number 3.
I think we got to have a number 3, dude, at this
Dude,
point.
it's all about
Because
the
there's
3P,
so
man.
much
We got to
more
be
we can
LeBron
talk
at this.
about.
Yeah.
3P, baby.
We've only scratched the surface.
Again,
Literally.
like, really, we're only scratching the surface, man. I mean, BIM is more than models, and it's all about the information, right? Whether it's coming from the BIM, whether it's coming from the sim, we're going to put the in front of it for all of you.
It doesn't matter. It's
It does not matter.
information.
It's
What
M.
is?
It's the IM.
The IM. That's
This
it.
guy gets it, man.
He does.
This
Yeah.
guy.
He does.
Hashtag this guy.
And really, I mean, you know, it falls down to, you know, the other hashtag I'm trying to promote is structured versus unstructured data. I know it's like huge and long, but like really, that's what it really is about. When we're talking about, you know, hashtag IM, it's whatever letter you want to put in front of it. It's information management. That's what it is.
Do you
That's
end up
exactly
with these
what it
data
is.
lakes at the end that you can't pull information from, and you have to figure out how to map information from? So you
Absolutely.
just You just
Absolutely,
answered it before I
absolutely.
got to
And,
define
you
the
know what
question. Yeah.
the best tool there in any asset portfolio managers, they need to get a feature manipulation editor or engine, person, FME person, because
FME.
FME, feature
FME,
manipulation
guys.
editor or engine. Anyway, the
We'll
person
do
that
it
we have
hashtag FME.
yeah, the person that we have at the client, with the client, they, she's amazing. She's with GIS, but she's able to do. She's like the Swiss Army knife of the whole organization because she can take any data and port it out to anywhere you want.
You know how I was sold on geography as a major. So I picked. I was a. I ran a. All right, just do my own real quick. We'll back up. Boop, boop. I ran a restaurant and catering company, and I had cooked for some of the coolest motherfuckers ever.
Oh
I'm
snap!
talking, I'm talking Alyssa Milano and her fine ass. I got a photo with me
dropping
there.
names.
Shoulder like this, well, actually, she's like this. She's like 4 foot nothing. But anyways, I got me with her. The George W. Bush, Rick Perry, former president of Mexico, Vicente Fox. Like I had cooked for these motherfuckers. Like, this is a form of life, man. Like, cool ass shit. And like thinking back to like how all this shit freaking integrates, thinking like, all right, this is my past life. This is the data that I collected. These are the people that I've done shit with. Talking about BIM going forward and stuff, and like, dude, I actually have no idea how the fuck this shit was gonna tie in.
Dude, no, it's perfect, right? Because if you think about it, in the common data environment sort of sense that we're all talking about, Joey, that's actually a good segue into it in the sense of like I've worked with these people before, I have not worked with this, I know what to expect, right? Like if you can figure out, okay, we have this many issues with this person, and every project we have these 2 or 3 issues. This is a chance for training, for retraining with them or retraining with us, so we understand what the expectations need to be set as. Or this is something where our consultant in this sense needs to say, okay, you guys need to update in this because this is causing a constant rework or setback in our projects, right? And it's knowing, like Joey, you and I talk about this, it's that AAR, APR in this sense, like that after action or after project review, knowing how to move forward, knowing and understanding that you can take that criticism from this project as not a failure, right? But as
no. I had a way to tie this in, but Johann mentioned something, and now I'm blanking because I've had way too much to drink. Johann, what the frick were you talking about that made me think of this shit, man?
I don't even know. But
no.
but BIM is more than models, okay?
BIM is more than
and
models.
We still gotta focus on the BIM fundamentals. All right. When I talk about BIM fundamentals, there's a about 6 portions about the BIM planning guide, but here's the 4 parts. Okay. Owner goals, owner requirements. Okay. BIM uses. Okay. Information exchanges, and then you put all that in your BIM execution plan. That is your BIM. That is the basis of your BIM execution plan.
Yeah.
And if you're wondering, if you're looking, researching any information about how to start a BIM execution plan, just go to Google, type in PSU, BIM execution plan guide, and it's on version 2.2, and you'll find the most up-to-date information, and you can basically copy the framework there because that'll give you exactly what you need. You'll learn about how to build the execution plan, how to define what the model uses are going to be, and how to really successfully execute BIM.
Yep, I agree. And then once you learn that, man, I think that
you can start to understand how you can use these BIM processes or these BIM tools to benefit your projects, right? Because as we're saying here, and as we've kind of been talking about during this episode, but the different tools have their uses, right? They have their strengths, they have their weaknesses. In terms, it's the same thing as BIM processes, BIM coordination, clash detection, clash prevention. They all have their uses and their kind of, well, their failures in the sense of their shortcomings, right? So figuring out what it is and setting expectations initially in terms of, I know I can get this far with this, and let's take it from there to this next standpoint or this next checkpoint, this next hurdle, and let's go. Let's just keep moving and keep flowing and adapting.
You know, that's a great way to end this on. I swear, goddamn it, I had a way to tie in what Johann said. Dave over there rewinding this and figuring it all out, but whatever. No matter what, it doesn't matter what the owner requirement is. You have to adapt to it. What Dave was saying, you have to kind of figure it out and how it filters downstream, like how it trickles downstream. And we've got to tie all this shit together, man. That's it. Johann, I'm still entranced by your background, bud.
Part 3.
Part
Look out for
3.
it.
So
Look
it
for
was
part
West
3.
Coast.
Yes, it is. It is. But seriously, yes, BIM is more than models. Part 3. Look on the look, or keep on the look for it, because Johann, dude, definitely we got to have you on again. This was a great episode, and I think we can continue to further develop what BIM expectations are, maybe help understand what BIM processes are, right, for the owners, what these pain points can be, what benefits come from using BIM from maybe the perspective of an owner rather than a user, right? So I feel like this is always great to have you on, man. Thank you again so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
And
it was a blast.
Cheers.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Thank you.
I, before we wrap up, I want to gauge how much have you guys drank?
So I had one. Well, this was my second eggnog, and this is
But
my
you were
second beer. So
you were 3 deep before we started,
no,
right?
I was only one. I was only one deep. So
1 deep. Okay.
Yeah.
Dave,
Oh, I finished off a can of the Bubble Stash. My Basil Hayden's is gone, and I am maybe about half finished with my second can of Bubble Stash.
I win. I had a half a bottle of this Rogue Spirits Oregon Rye, which is delicious, by the way, and it's gone. Half a bottle.
condolences to your wife.
She's gonna be so mad at me later.
Oh, sweetie, I love you. I'm gonna go to bed now.
Yeah. No, I'm coherent. Big boy, coherent. I've actually got some turkey burnt ends above me in the oven.
Nice.
So I'm gonna get after it, man. You guys have been great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, dude. Thanks again, Johann, for joining us, man. Really. Thank you everybody else for listening, and as always, if you have any feedback for us or you want to reach out, actually, Johann, for any of our listeners who are curious, maybe there are some owners who are new to BIM and want to reach out for some advice, or maybe that's somebody that's experienced in the industry and would like to share knowledge with you, how can they get a hold of you?
You know, the easiest way to get hold of me is LinkedIn. I'm there. Honestly, I'm there for all you guys, and I'm honestly there for myself too, because I'm learning from you guys every single day. You know, there's so much awesome stuff and so many awesome groups on LinkedIn. I just, you know, really, I would say that if you're coming into this industry and you want to get connected with what's going on with the industry, get on LinkedIn and start, you know, communicating, collaborating with your peers, because that's where everybody's at, you know. You know, one of the other podcasts that I was invited to was the AEC Hive, And they were kind of asking, hey, give me some more ideas of who we can include into this group. So, look out for more communities like that, because there's a lot of us out here that are just really willing to share our knowledge and information. And then we can talk about contracts later on. But hey, let's just get together. Let's drink a couple beers and let's chat. Let's chat shop.
I like to preface it as you like to wear your BIM on your sleeve. All of us, man, we like to wear our BIM on our sleeve. It doesn't matter what platform we're talking about or what podcast. We just want to share information. That's all we're about. At the end of the day, none of this costs information, costs money, right? To share information. Dude, this is what half a bottle of whiskey.
You're good, Joey.
Oh, man. But at the end of the day, none of us, we don't charge any of this. We don't charge any money. Like, this is a free podcast. AEC High free podcast, right? We just want to share information as to how you can, as an owner, as an AEC individual, subcontractor, contractor, whatever yourself,
whatever discipline
just
you're in,
gain insight, whatever you can, to aggregate data, share information, and provide your deliverable to an owner. And if you have questions, reach out to Dave Campbell, Johann Tuckler, or myself. We're all on LinkedIn. Damn it, LinkedIn is the shit, by the way. Just want to say it.
Twitter.
We have never. So Dave and I, just
growingwithbim.com. That's our website.
Growingwithbim.com.
Baby. No, so Dave and I, we don't give ourselves shout outs. We don't really do a lot of stuff as far as self-promoting. And we exploded, which is awesome. And I think that's a testament to the fact that we don't charge for information. We're biased to Autodesk software, yes. But most people in the United States are, so we kind of follow that kind of paradigm. But that said, like Dave and I, we kind of like provide all this information for free. There's no cost for anything we do. We get experts like yourself onto this podcast so that we can share the same information. And I don't care if you recommend open source data, ArchiCAD. It doesn't matter what it is. But at the end of the day, like, there's a project deliverable that you can define.
Dude, you're the expert, man.
Like,
yes,
we're relying on you. Like,
this Dave and I sharing the information, man. That's it. We just want to be here. We want to help channel that. We want to create this channel, this podcast where we can share information with our peers, such as yourself, Johann, or any of our listeners out there, man. That's it.
I'm going to give it a D-Generation X to all you non-Autodesk users. No, I'm just kidding.
No, with closing out, this is really why I'm very passionate about BIM, is because in general, like in projects, even before I learned what BIM was, I really understood the need of having the person next to you be at the same level that you're at and have the same information that you're at, that you have, because that's the only way we're going to be successful, and that's the only way we're going to be efficient, is if we all understand the information that is available. And that's what BIM is. It's about collaboration. It's not about Revit or 3D authoring softwares. Nope. That's not what it's about. BIM is way more than models.
Yes.
BIM is more than models. BIM is collaboration. BIM is information management. BIM is sharing.
Johann, I'm gonna chop this shit up into a rap, and it's gonna be you rapping about how BIM is not BIM is more than models. Get ready for this shit, dude. It's gonna be cheesy as fuck.
Don't challenge me to give you some bars, yo.
Hey man,
dropping some BIM bars. There you go.
I got beats on
bars
deck,
for you,
so
bro.
if you need shit, beats, you can hit me up too.
That's awesome.
I got bars. Girl with an M, dude. Man, I got this shit. So to end this shit, BIM is more than models. Hashtag that's all that fucking matters. Peace out, guys.
All right, guys.